Before you listen, if you like these stories and want to hear more, please take the time to subscribe. Most of you are not subscribed. Turn on your post notifications so you don't miss a video. Thank you, and now enjoy. The story happened to me when I was home alone. I got hungry and did not feel like cooking. It was almost midnight, so I walked down to the 24-hour gas station, which was around my house. I stepped outside my house. I could see that it was still raining. So I grabbed my brown jacket and began to start walking down to the gas station. On my way to the gas station, I could see that nobody was really out. I mean, the streets were empty and no cars was driving by. But occasionally, I would get soaked though when a car would pass by from the water puddles that was on the road. So that was a bit annoying. When I got there, I could see a group of men all talking and smoking their cigarettes. I just walked past the men into the gas station and began to get some snacks. I ended up buying 2 bags of Dorito chips and a large Sprite, which would last me through the night. When I was buying my stuff, I could see that the cashier was new and we ended up making small talk before it was time for me to leave. I told the cashier that they would see me here more often because I come here a lot. I then walked out the gas station and started walking back home. When I was leaving the gas station, those men who were there earlier smoking their cigarettes asked if I had any extra money so they could buy more drugs, I figured. I told the men no, that was the last of the money I had. The men then looked at each other and said, "You better not be lying to me." And then the men went back to talking to each other. I then left the gas station and began to start walking back home. On my way home, I couldn't help but to think about the men saying, "You better not be lying to me." That was strange, but I brushed that off because I was almost home now. It's not like these guys knew where I stayed, and that would be the last time I would see those guys, more than likely. I then made it into my house. I locked my front door and my dog Sparkle was jumping on me, almost making me spill my groceries I got from the gas station. I then went and laid on the couch until my parents would be home. I ended up watching a movie while I ate my chips and drank my Sprite. I began to get tired and started to wind down for bed. I did my usual night routine and went to sleep. At the middle of the night, I was woke up to hearing footsteps from coming outside of my bedroom window, followed by soft whispering. I could see that my dog Sparkle was asleep right next to me. I got out of my bed to check and see if maybe my parents were home, and if they were the ones making those sounds outside of my bedroom window. I looked outside the front room window and could see that my parents were not home yet. This was scary because I was home alone and I had no way of defending myself if someone was out there trying to break in. I then grabbed the only thing I could think of, which was my baseball bat from my closet door. I looked outside of my bedroom window again, and to my surprise, it was just pitch black. Nobody there. You know that feeling you get when you think you heard something, and then when you check, the sound is gone? And your body freezes up? Well, that was the feeling my body got. My body was just froze up and I was just scared. I then texted my parents to see when they would be home. My parents answered and said they would be home tomorrow because they missed their flight and it got delayed. Instead of me telling them what was going on, I decided it was best for me not to worry them more, because I know parents can get very, very protective when they hear about you not feeling safe. I did not want to worry my parents just in case maybe I was hearing things. An hour later, I was in the living room watching a movie when I heard someone jiggling my front door knob. I paused my movie to make sure I wasn't hearing things, and to my surprise, no, it was real life. I bolted over to the front door to make sure it was locked and yelled outside the house, "If you don't leave, I'll call the police." The man just stand there. As I looked outside of my front room window, you could see a tall, skinny man standing there, followed by a dark blue Honda Civic parked in my driveway. I knew that there was no way I could take all the men by myself, so I did what most people would do in this situation. I then began to call the police. I kept the police on the line as I tried to describe the man that was outside of my house to my best ability. The man then said, "Let me in. I know you're home alone." This was terrifying because not only was there other people with this man, more than likely, even me mentioning about calling the police, the man just stand there after a couple of minutes. The man did a hand signal and a group of men all came out of the blue Honda Civic. It was all the same men from the gas station. I told the police that they need to hurry up because something bad was about to happen. The police told me they were almost there and to find a place to hide and be quiet so the group did not hear me. I did what the police officer said and I ran upstairs locking my parents' room door and hiding under my parents' bed. I kept hearing banging sounds from the front door. This woke up my dog Sparkle, which began to bark. The men were inside my house. I could hear the men saying, "Check upstairs." I heard footsteps walking upstairs, and I was upstairs. I then saw my parents' bedroom door open. As soon as this happened, I could hear police sirens. This made the men try and run, as I could hear a lot of footsteps running to go outside. The police then arrested all the men, and it was safe for me to come out. The police officer said that it was not safe for me to stay here tonight. I told them if they could take me and Sparkle, my dog, to my grandma's house until my parents would be here the next morning. The police officer agreed, and after I got dropped off at my grandma's house. After this incident, my parents have not left me home again and don't plan on ever leaving me anytime soon. The scary part about this story is those men from the gas station were arrested, but they stalked me all the way to my house and knew I was home alone. I waited until the perfect time to try to break in and do whatever they had on their mind, rob me or even harm me. I'm just thankful I trusted my gut and called the police when I did, because if I did not, I might not have been able to tell you about this terrifying experience I had. This story happened to me when I was 15 years old, and I was playing at the park with my brother and sister. The story honestly still haunts me still to this day. With that being said, let's get into the story. I remember waking up really early in the morning and going downstairs and doing my usual kid morning routine, which consists of eating a big bowl of cereal and watching TV until my parents would wake up. My brother and sister would do the same as me, which got annoying sometimes, but after a while, it was cool. It was cool to be a role model to my siblings. When my parents woke up, me and my siblings asked if we could all go to a park later on. My mom and dad agreed, but we'd have to stop by my grandma's house first to help her water her garden. I remember arriving to the park not long after. The park was like a field trip for kids. At least for me, I used to see parks as a big different world that only kids owned, which was cool at the time, I guess. Me and my brother and sisters all played at the park, riding down the slide and even playing tag with the other kids who would come to the park. I was the oldest out of my siblings, so I was in charge of making sure nothing happened to them. I remember looking over at a bench that was at a park and seeing a creepy older guy just staring at me. The guy did not look good, and I could tell that he might have been on something, maybe even drugs or something, because the guy had bloodshot eyes and also had a big red stain on his shirt. I couldn't see from far away, but it looked as it might have been blood stain, which was creepy enough. I went over to my parents and began to tell them about the creepy guy over there, sitting on the bench. But my mom and dad told me to have fun and play, not worry about that, because they were here and they would not let anything happen to us. I wanted to believe them, but I was really getting a bad feeling about this guy. We kept playing, and when I would look, I could still see that the guy was staring at me. It looked as if he hasn't blinked yet. I tried to ignore the creepy guy staring at me, and I kept playing. It began to get dark. It was time for us all to leave. We all then ran back to our parents and began to get into the car. We was the only one out there at the park, besides that creepy man sitting at the bench. It was almost pitch black outside. My dad and mom began to get into the car. So that's when my dad was suddenly pulled out the car by the creepy man from earlier and beat him pretty badly. My mom yells at the guy and says, "Oh my God, I'm calling the police." She then locks the car doors and calls the police. The police say they'll be there and to stay calm. My brother and sister, we were all scared. The man started to jiggle the car door, trying to get in. He then walked out to the trash can area and picked up a big stick and started to walk back over to our car. My dad was on the ground knocked out from the man. I was not sure what a 15-year-old like me could do in this situation. The man then started to hit our car with a big stick, trying to break in our window. We can't drive away because our dad has the keys in his pocket. That's when the guy realized. He then grabbed the keys from my dad's pocket and began to unlock the car. My mom kept spamming and pressing the lock button. It was too late. The man was inside the car. We then could hear soft police sirens. That was when the man realized. My mom called the police. He then left the keys in the car and began to start running through the park. The police came over and could see that my dad was beaten up badly. We gave every description of the guy that we could, but he was not found. My dad was sent to a hospital because he had a concussion from the man. The next day, we turned on the news and the man was arrested. It turned out he was a wanted criminal and he had brutally murdered his daughter that day. because she refused to listen to his rules. That's why he had bloodstains on his shirt. And that explains why he was at the park. The man was sentenced 15 years in prison, and he's probably out by now. I just hope that I don't ever see that man again. I moved out of my parents' house not too long ago. My reason, well, was because I was tired of having to listen to the same rules. Like nobody can come over, no going outside after midnight. You get the point. I was 18 years old and I figured maybe it was better for me to get my own place. I worked in retail, so getting the money to afford my own apartment did not take long, as I thought it would. I bought an apartment that was not on the best side of the town. It was all I could afford, and it was either living in this apartment alone or having to live with my parents. I moved all my stuff in my apartment and figured I should be good after that. I actually had the opportunity to spread my body and not get in trouble for eating a late night snack past midnight, because it would wake up my baby brother. I love my parents. I just want to say that it was just the rules that didn't make sense to me at all. After a long day at work, I came home and turned on a movie to watch. There was a lot of downsides though living in an apartment. You would hear people if someone was ever throwing a party. Good luck trying to sleep that night because it was literally impossible. My next door neighbor would always get to fighting with their boyfriend. And I mean, all the time. I would just hear them going back and forth all through the night. I tried to ignore this because it was not my business to say anything. But as time went on, the arguments they had would start to affect my sleep, even my daily life. There was a time when they was arguing, it was midnight. I was woke up to hearing a loud bash outside. It sounded like someone got their car window smashed. I went and looked and saw that this bastard smashed my car window thinking it was his girlfriend's. I yelled at the man telling him that you smashed my window and you're gonna have to fix that damage. The man said I'm not fixing jack shit. I told him if you don't, I'll call the police and they'll arrest you. This really pissed the angry man off and even the female next to me. But I was serious. The man then walked off and I called the police and told him what happened. But when the police got there, the man was gone. They said if I saw the men again, to call them and they would be there. The next morning, I had to go to work. On my way to work, I could see that there was a truck behind me. It was early, so maybe this guy was going the same way as me. I turned into my workplace and the truck was still there. It started worrying me a little, but I did work in retail and that was a public place. Maybe it was a customer, I figured. I went into the store and began to clock in. That's when I got a call from an unknown number. I answered. You called the cops on me? I asked, who is this? The man said, don't play stupid. You will regret that decision. The man then hung up. My mind was going through the worst things you could imagine. And I kept thinking that it was the guy from last night. I then left work and decided I would drive to the police station. When I got into my car, I saw that the car lot was pretty empty. I then began to turn on the car. That's when I heard loud scratches coming from outside my car. This froze me up a little, and I was debating on whether or not I wanted to check out the scratches. I got out of my car to check and see what was going on. I saw the man. He was holding a knife. He told me to get back in the car and for me to drive him up the street. I had no other choice. I thought if I screamed, the guy would cut me. I then drove the man up the street. That's when the man said, hold up. My friend wants to get in the car. Let him in. I was paranoid. Another guy got into my car and told me to drive. The men were talking to each other and they said, you like to call the police, huh? I begged for the men to not hurt me. They told me to shut up and keep driving. I was bawling my eyes out at this point. That's when a police officer flashed his lights at me and got behind my car and told me to pull over. The police then told me I had expired car tags, and he could see that something was off. The police called for backup and those two men were soon arrested. It turned out that those two men were wanted criminals, and that was the reason he did not want me to call the police. All I can say is that I'm thankful my car tags were expired and the police pulled me over, because if that did not happen, I don't know where I would have ended up at. I then moved back in with my parents, and I have not been on that side of town ever since. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I will be trying to get a new video every day or every other day. Be sure to like and subscribe, and comment what would you like to hear next.